Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today you find me in a quiet spot in the woods because I'm in a reflective mood, and I need to be, because I'm going to answer a question from a viewer which is quite a challenge to get through, but many of you watching this might find yourself in the same position, or you might find the advice I'm about to offer somewhat useful regarding any challenge which you're facing in life. And I'll tell you of the situation which faces Andrew. And I'm just going to read through this email in Andrew's words and then offer my thoughts at the end. And don't worry, I'm going to offer a few actionable pieces of advice which can be employed in one's life to make this situation maybe a little more bearable. So, Andrew tells us, and I'm going to use his words, I am a 40-year-old married father of two. I've always worked hard from the age of 16, putting in long and hard hours to provide for my family, often working late, which has meant missing out on some of the precious family time. I was recently diagnosed with stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of blood cancer. I've always considered myself generally fit. I cycle to work, enjoy various sports, and I have a positive outlook on life. It hasn't always been easy, as is the case for everyone. Peaks and troughs, as we say here on the Chap's Guide. But since my diagnosis, I've definitely hit a huge trough. I've been off work now for 4 months, and to be honest, I feel useless. I desperately want to get back to work, but the fatigue I'm experiencing leaves me exhausted, even after a gentle walk outside. I've completed the radiotherapy treatment and I now await my next scan in August, which will determine whether the treatment has been a success. With this type of cancer, I'm told I'll always have it. It's just a case of waiting until if and when it comes back. And then I would begin the next cycle of treatment. This has hit me quite hard. I've lost a lot of my confidence and self-esteem. I know I have a lot to be positive about. A lovely wife, 2 sons to think about. But we as men are expected to just get on with it and ride the storm. I am trying. This may resonate with a lot of fellow viewers of the channel. I'd very much appreciate it if you could offer some wise and positive words on how to dig myself out of this rut I find myself in. It's the biggest mental challenge I've ever faced. I'd also be interested in reading any comments from your viewers. Okay, so really sorry, Andrew, to hear that you're facing a challenge like this at so young an age, at only 40, with 2 young kids, a family, and it seems like you were on a track to having a great life. But I'm sure you will have. I mean, let's just all of us hope and wish that your scan, your treatment has been successful, and you will open a new chapter on life, and it will be one of the positivity which you feel may be not present in your life at the moment. As I look at your letter, it drips with a strong character. And sometimes, there are times in every man's life where our plans get derailed by challenges which not only are difficult, but they are totally disorienting as well, aren't they? They send us off in a different angle. They rock us to the very foundations of our core as a person. And, they affect the way that we have built our identity. We were that strong, fit, powerful man, and suddenly we find that, being taken away from us. And we have to rebuild something else. And these things often arrive quietly, sneakily, stealthily. They appear in our lives when we least expect it. And they challenge our sense of direction as we go through life on our journey. And when you find yourself in a situation like this, and your body is weary, and you don't know which direction you're going to be heading off on, I will start off by saying, remember this one thing, right? Life is a bit like a passage that you're writing in a journal or in a book, and you're capturing, this element of your life. Remember this, you're still writing that passage in the book. You are still determining the future that is yet to unfold as you go through on your life journey. And even though things may seem a little heavy and a bit tough right now, remember this one thing. As you're writing the passage for your future life, it is you and you alone who hold the pen in your hand. And it is you who gets to determine how the rest of your life story is written. There are different types of strength which are admired in men, and I think it's always been admired. There's that type of strength which is the bold, powerful, active, physical strength, and we all know about that. But then there's that quiet, unassuming strength which comes from within your character and your soul, which you can draw upon at times of emergency and challenge, as Andrew has described here. And that type of strength is the ability to endure pain with patience, the ability to keep showing up when nobody is watching, because you know that you've got to be there for the people who care for you. And of course there's the strength which comes from adapting to the new limitations that your life will provide for you with dignity and without losing your own sense of self-worth and self-esteem and self-confidence, which can be rocked to its core when one gets a diagnosis as described here. Now, you may feel that you've lost some things which are quite essential to you in your life. To a degree, your sense of independence, your sense of unstoppability, your invulnerability, it's all been taken away because now you realize that we are all extremely fragile human beings and everything that we have can be removed in an instant, and you feel that sense of loss. But know this, I know it's not a journey that you've chosen, but it is a journey which will come to refine you into a better version of a human being than you were before, not define you, right? You are not your illness. Yes, you're a different person to what you were before that illness came along, but the new you can actually be a more polished and refined version with a greater understanding of the world than the one which was before your illness. Now, to help you on the journey, you've asked for some advice and some tips from me. Well, I am not really qualified to offer you all the answers, but I will just give you some actionable tips that I would put in place if I found myself facing the challenges which you do today. I hope you find them useful. Now, the first thing I would recommend for you is to start each day with the morning and take it from there, because mornings really matter. The morning sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I know some mornings you get up and you might be, lacking in energy because your treatment has robbed you of that. Or you might not have the mental positivity that makes you feel like you want to get out of bed and get on with the day. But remember, the way that you start your day shapes the rest of the day which lies ahead of you. And if you can do it by simple, repeatable processes which get you up and running, so to speak, each day, it'll really help. And it can be something as simple as, getting out of bed, going to the bathroom and having a shave. It makes you feel a little bit refreshed. It reminds you that you're in control of something that you can do every day. It makes you look better and feel better. It could be simply writing a few lines in your journal to just say what your plan is for the day ahead. But what you're doing, if you have a repeatable daily process that you start in the morning, is you've got an anchor point to each day. And you are starting each day with intention, not reaction. You get up, you feel, oh, I'm not well today, I can't be bothered. You intend to do things which lie ahead each day. You have a plan. And that starts from the moment that you open your eyes. So just remember this one thing. Mornings matter. If you are the master of your mornings, you will be the master of your day. My next bit of advice is, remember, it's very easy to slip into a negative mindset when we are suffering ill health or we've suffered a blow in our life, be that grief, some other form of loss. Maybe you've lost your job, you've lost a relationship, and it's very easy to get down on yourself. That inner dialogue, that self-voice that we often have, will more often than not kick you when you're down. And it'll start to say things like, no, I can't. Oh, I can't do that anymore. I'm not as fit or as strong as I used to be. I can't do that, or I'm not good enough to do that. And it's very easy to slip into just hearing that inner dialogue knocking you back, damaging your self-esteem, damaging your self-confidence. Now, the way I'd like to get around this, just imagine that the situation you're facing was being faced by a close personal friend, somebody you love and care for greatly. And you would go around and see that person every so often. And you'd have lots of words of encouragement for them, wouldn't you? You'd say, you're doing really well. Do you know what? Considering the situation you're facing, I think it's amazing the way that you've come on since then. You're looking stronger. You're looking better. I'm very proud of what you have done so far. You are getting on top of it. You're winning. That's what your friend would say to you. Why not use those positive affirmations on yourself? Say them to yourself. And I tell you what, it will boost your optimism. It will make you feel more positive. And not a word of what you're saying is not true. You're just saying it to yourself. So everything that you would say to a friend going through that situation that you're in now, say it to yourself. And I tell you what, if you can turn that inner dialogue around to a voice of positivity, not negativity, which they tend to be, it'll start to boost your optimism, and your outlook on life can only but improve. My next little actionable tip for you is to reinvest in the connections that you've had in the past or right now and you've kind of lost touch with. Because you say you've been out of work for 3 or 4 months, and I dare say you've probably lost a connection with many of your associates, your friends, and maybe some of those buddies from the earlier era of your life. If you're married, you've got a couple of kids, as you've said here, there are many friends who have perhaps fallen out of your orbit of regular contact. Now may be the time to reconnect with people. Just drop them an email. Why not do something really positive and drop them a letter? There's something very special about receiving a letter from somebody written in their own handwriting. It doesn't have to be anything long. It doesn't have to be, soul revealing. Just drop a friend a letter. I'm just getting in touch. I've not been very well lately. I've got a bit of time on my hands, and I wondered if you'd like to catch up. And it will make you, just reappreciate some of those friendships and connections which may have fallen off in the past. And my last little tip for you is a very simple one, and that is set a few little goals for yourself each day. Maybe, going back to our previous actionable point, as I said, when you get up, write a few things down in your journal, giving you plans for the day ahead. Why don't you set yourself a small little goal? Now, I know when your body betrays you with ill health, and you just think, oh, I can't do it. You feel let down. You think, what's the point of making plans for the future? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, if I'm going to be well enough, fit enough. But don't look to the long term. Just look for the right now. The day ahead, and let's overcome those goals. Remember, nobody has ever climbed Everest and got to the summit in one go. You have to get to base camp and work your way up to the summit at different camps at different heights. And it's the same when you're planning your recovery. Set yourself some simple small goals. Go for a 5-minute walk to start with. You said you can do that? Let's go for 5 minutes today. Tomorrow or the day after in your journal, you might say, I'm going to go for 6 minutes. I'm going to go for 10 minutes. Keep pushing the boundaries. Those little goals make all the difference. And on the days perhaps where you feel crap and you just can't countenance getting out through the door for a walk, set a more easily achievable goal. Listen to a wonderful piece of music which you've always found uplifting. Or read a book which you read in the past, which you remember being wonderful, maybe even from your childhood, that reminded you of a happy time in your life. Do something which will offer positivity in the goal that you set for yourself each day. And before you know it, those goals are getting bigger, more achievable, and you'll be back to the old you in no time at all. So there we go. Admittedly, some of my advice to you was simple, ordinary, everyday stuff, no rocket science. Based on a life lived, observing others, living my own challenges, and I'm also a professional well-being trainer, so hopefully some of the advice has been of some use. But remember, right, you're not defined by your illness at all. The strength which you're displaying now, which is pulling you through this illness and will return you to full health in no time at all, will actually polish off some of the edges of the man that you were before, which will leave behind a richer, stronger and more rounded human being that you were before. You'll have gone through one of life's greatest challenges and you will have overcome it, and a better version of you will stand at the end. Not the same as the one in the past, a different one, a better one. And I, for one, Andrew, wish you all positivity and all the luck of the world in the return to your full health very soon. And keep me updated, let me know how you're getting on. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. And please send me a question or an observation or something that you would like my help with in exactly the same way as Andrew did. My email address is on the screen. I'm the only person who reads those emails. You get no judgment from anybody, only me, and I'll support you in any way that I can. If you'd like to join me on the journey to Chap Nirvana, don't forget I also have a Patreon page in which I make extra videos just for my patrons, exclusive content. I'd love to have you on the journey with me. The link to that is in the show notes below. So until the next time, Andrew, everybody, take care, good health, and I'll see you soon.
The sound of